You're good.
Very good. All right. Thank you for joining us for today's session of the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. This series is designed to help K-12 educators reimagine education with Blackboard teaching and learning solutions. This series harnesses the power of our K-12 community of academic leaders, teachers, and other experts to provide relevant, real-time, on-demand, and ongoing professional development opportunities for K-12 educators. My name is Katie Gallagher, and I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager leading Blackboard's Teaching and Learning Solutions and Product Marketing for K-12, and I'll be serving as the moderator for this series. Thank you to Colleen Smith from our Central Marketing team who will be helping moderate this series as well and answering questions today in the chat. We'll be joining you for the series this fall. We're always open to new ideas for topics for the series and definitely want to know if you're interested in presenting for a future session. Just email me at katie.gallagher@blackboard.com. Each webinar series is recorded. You can search for the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series playlist on the Blackboard TV YouTube channel, or go to tinyurl.com/bitsk12 for all of the recordings. A few days after each webinar, you'll receive a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides so that you can further review it. And you'll also get an invitation to an online professional learning community that's designed to augment the series and create an avenue for ongoing professional collaboration and dialogue. So please accept this invitation and join the online PLC. As you can see, we have many exciting professional development sessions lined up. We're nearing the end of the fall series, and the spring series is just around the corner. Please join us next Monday for the Best of Both Worlds, a blended co-teaching model with Jen Curran and Sherry Bell from the North Carolina Virtual Public School. You can register for that session and all other sessions at bb.blackboard.com/K12bits. And lastly, if you haven't done so already, be sure to download the BBK12 Live app. All series sessions are fed into the app, as well as the best of sessions from Blackboard World this summer for on-demand, anytime, anywhere professional development. So without further ado, we are very excited to have Dr. Angelique Kobler and Dr. Terry McEwen and Philip Thies joining us for the session today, 50 Shades of Data. And wanted to introduce each of these folks today. So while today's session, while some data can be very unappealing, the right tools and support can increase your staff and your students' awareness and engagement, allowing you to fully utilize your resources and maximize your end-user adoption of the LMS. Learn how Lawrence Public Schools maximizes personalized learning for students and staff in a data-rich environment by utilizing a learning management system complemented by adoption success software. So with us today, we're very privileged to have Angelique Kobler. She leads a team of education administrators for Lawrence Public Schools. As Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, she partners with dynamic educators who are leading the way in innovative classroom practices. She shares her passion for disrupting the status quo via social media. You can reach her at akobler@usd497.org or through LinkedIn. Dr. Terry McEwen currently serves as the Director of Assessment, Research, and Instructional Resources for the Lawrence, Kansas Public Schools. He's been in the district office in Lawrence for the past 12 years. And previous to his tenure at Lawrence, he was a senior high school instrumental music teacher and then a high school English language arts teacher in West Metro Denver for 25 years. He chaired a 20-teacher English department in a high school of 2,200 students in Jefferson County Public Schools. In his teaching life, he has literally taught kindergarten students through seniors in high school and every grade in between. He completed his PhD in Educational Leadership and Policy Studies at the University of Kansas, which led him to his current position in Lawrence, Kansas School District. His doctoral research focused on the curriculum design of mathematics and resultant student outcomes. He also serves as an adjunct professor of education at Baker University School for Professional and Graduate Studies in Overland Park, Kansas, and as an adjunct professor of graduate studies and education at Fort Hays State University in Hays, Kansas. And last but not least, we're pleased to have Philip Dees joining us today as well. And he is proud to be a teacher on special assignment with Lawrence Public Schools. As a TOSA, Philip partners with teachers, parents, and administrators to design digital curriculum that supports blended learning classrooms and professional learning opportunities while establishing an atmosphere of personalized learning for all. His passion for education inspires others, creating an environment where individuals exceed expectations. So with that, I'm very pleased to welcome our presenters today. Before I hand the controls over, I just would like to remind everyone, many of you have participated in the past, but we like to keep the sessions as engaging as possible. Please use the chat and the QA boxes to type in any questions that you might have. Colleen and I will be monitoring those and interjecting with questions throughout. So please don't be shy and participate. With that, thank you so much, Angelique, Terry, and Philip. We'll pass controls to you.
Thank you, Katie, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to be spending the next 45 minutes with you. We appreciate you sharing the afternoon with us. So we want to talk about at least the title so far, and at least from my experience, we know that data has a reputation of being somewhat boring, perhaps even feared. So what is data? Well, without data, you simply have a professional opinion. Data is more than student achievement or even student academic achievement and scores. For us, it's information that can propel our initiatives and our adoption success. So what we wanted to make appealing was something, again, that can be very boring for some people, so hence the name 50 Shades of Data. So let's take a look at this photo, and you'll see some maybe common characteristics. Just calling out a few, we've got students facing a perceived front of the room. We have students in individual desks. We have all of the desks facing one way. In this about 100-year-old photo. So we have students coming to us, just as many of you listening in, with different needs, and what we don't want them to do is to have to power down when they enter our buildings. So we started asking ourselves about the effective incorporation of the very devices that our students use outside of our classrooms, outside of our learning environment, outside of our buildings. And it's not simply technology for its own sake, but we're really talking about the implementation or the integration of technology to help us achieve that personalized learning environment, and not just for our students, but for our students and our staff. What we're basically saying is the factory model no longer meets our needs. So we're going to jump ahead to this photo, roughly 100 years later, and we'll own this one. This comes from one of our own high schools. So let's do a compare and contrast. We still see individual desks. We still see them facing what appears to be a front of the room, and we still see desks in rows. So we ask ourselves, have we really made many gains? So we wanted to change this environment, and that included not only the furniture, how the room is arranged, but as well as the curriculum and the technology. We started asking ourselves and wondering how we could make a bigger difference in these environments. How can we move that 15 or 20% that seem to come to us each year and not achieve the outcomes that have been predetermined? We're not okay with 15 to 20% on average not successfully meeting those outcomes. So we developed some driving questions for our field test and our action research. You see those listed here. Can we increase student engagement beyond what we're currently experiencing, and something that would draw those remaining 15 to 20% into the curriculum? The second question was, can we provide a resource that maximizes teachers' time with students? We know as teachers that we don't have near enough time to go and search and curate the globe of resources and information that's out there. So how do we achieve that? and get a highly effective, robust resource into our teachers' hands so then they can spend the time that we go into teaching for. Individual time with students, making a difference with students, meeting with them in small groups, and seeing that growth and that learning just explode. So these two questions for us really do go hand in hand, and we started addressing those with our field test. But we also started asking how we can address and support our staff with professional development, curriculum, online materials, but then work within the resources that are available to us. When we talk about that professional development and blended learning and how we were changing the environment in the classroom, we really needed to stop and think about and commit ourselves to applying that same practice with our professional development. For example, we pull together staff about once a week, and we have the opportunities available to them throughout the month, and this is a collaboration day. Time set aside for the staff to come together and professionally reflect about the changes in their classroom, learn from their colleagues, share what isn't working, share what is working. But we've learned quite a bit in watching these collaborations take place. The feedback we're receiving from staff is that this is one of the most critical components as our initiative moves forward. This slide shows you a little bit of information about our initiative. We started in 2012 with 8 classrooms labeled as the field test. Weren't sure if we'd be moving forward, so we really needed to find staff that were open and honest, would share with us where the challenges were, where those pinch points were occurring, what they needed to be successful. They weren't shy or bashful about requesting or demanding something to improve the situation. We needed teachers filled with grit, filled with a collaborative nature, and perseverance, because this was a difficult first year, hundreds of hours into planning and writing curriculum. But because of their feedback and their input, we have a Board of Education that supported a move forward. So in phase 1, we expanded to 80 classrooms, and we are currently in phase 2, and you can see that we have 221 classrooms involved. We have about 600 classrooms in the district, so we are certainly moving forward with addressing each one of those. A detail I think that is important about our initiative is that staff are not being forced into this. It's a question of when and not if. All of our classrooms are going to move towards a blended environment, but staff can self-select over the next 5 years when they'd like to join the initiative. So it is an application process, and the applications are reviewed by an internal committee. Once those applications are accepted and deemed successful, then we come in with supports and resources such as furniture, hardware and software, as well as professional development to create a positive environment that moves forward. So as we move forward into our 3rd year, we are still gathering data that we find to be relevant and important. We refine our supports, but we also target our resources to meet the various teacher needs. We have novice teachers all the way to a 30-year veteran involved in this initiative. The data we're collecting informs us on teacher and student usage within our LMS, which is Blackboard, and the type of tools used most often as well as least often.
So I'm Terry McEwen. Let's talk a little bit about data and our data collection. Our model of data collection is based upon a model of collect the data, interpret the data, and then act on the data we collect. So what kind of stuff are we collecting? We're monitoring what students are doing and what teachers are doing within Blackboard, but even more specifically, we are looking at how our students are performing within classes that are using blended learning. We're looking at alignment between curriculum and instruction and assessment. So we're looking at all those things. We're also collecting perception data as well as performance data because we really need both in order to get a real picture of what's going on. Once we've collected that data, then we need to look at it deeply to understand what our users are doing, either collectively or individually. And we had an easy time of that when we had 8 classrooms doing this, because it's pretty easy to collect and interpret the data for 8 teachers. But now that we've expanded to 221, we have our work cut out for us in terms of not only collecting that data, but interpreting what it means for us. Finally, once we've interpreted the data, we have to do something with it. So what are we doing in terms of that acting part of the pyramid here? So we are providing a lot of professional development for our teachers. We provide it in a variety of ways. For one, as Angelique mentioned, the collaboration between our blended learning teachers. But in addition to that, we have some just-in-time PD that can be delivered sort of on an on-demand basis, that can be delivered on-site right in a teacher's classroom with our teachers on special assignment going directly to our teachers to help with anything that they have. We also have expanded our professional development opportunities to include such things as Blackboard 101, how to do various things within Blackboard. Our course creation periods where we actually work on what is it that needs to go into a course, how is it created, what do you put into Blackboard, how do you put a video on Blackboard, and so forth. So we have increased our opportunities to actually provide on-time and important engaging professional development. We also, I mentioned we collect perception data. We survey our staff once per quarter. We survey our students once a semester, and we survey our parents who are involved in blended learning once per year. One of the things that we just teased out 2 particular questions, and you can see in the fall of 2013 to the spring of 2014, and then again this fall, and understand that 13-14 we were talking about 80 teachers, and in 2014 fall we're at 221. But they all kind of believe pretty, similarly that blended learning has increased student engagement. So that needle hasn't moved very much. I think we've got everybody believing that. Notice, though, the difference between fall of 13 and spring of 14 regarding the amount of teachers who believed that it would actually increase student achievement as measured by assessments. Only 50% agreed with that in the fall compared to 80% of the same teachers in the spring. But when we look at this fall, the fall of 2014, we already have 76% of our involved teachers believing that it actually does increase achievement as measured by assessments. So we've moved that needle quite a bit. That's great because everybody believes that. The question now is that true? And so we do use assessment results to measure that. So one of the things we wanted to look at was not only does the blended learning increase student achievement, but what might be different within 2 particular teachers' classrooms or more? What are they doing differently? What might a blended teacher be doing in one room that might have more impact than in another room? We used the Measures of Academic Progress, or MAP, to measure both fall and spring achievement, and we looked at last year specifically from fall to spring. And MAP uses an equal interval scale of measurement so that we would be able to state pretty directly that our students are performing at a specific on or not on grade level. So that's kind of how we're looking at this. So let's look at 2 blended teachers. They're both second grade teachers. One thing we already know is that our students are meeting or exceeding the national norms. We also know that our blended classrooms score as well or better than our traditional classrooms. So we have 2 second grade teachers with similar schools. Our interpret question then, we've collected this data, so our interpret question is, what causes the difference in the spring growth between teacher 1 and teacher 2? So that would be our initial question going in. Let's look at a grade 5 situation. We have, again, two similar buildings, two similar teachers, all with the same equipment, all looking at, using Blackboard. Again, they're all exceeding the national norms, which is great, but there is a profound difference between what's happening in blended teacher 1's room compared to blended teacher 2. So our interpret question again is, what accounts for these differences? At grade 7, we see a similar effect. Blended teacher 1 and blended teacher 2 are both getting good performance, but what might be different in blended teacher 1? What might that teacher be doing? What components of Blackboard might that teacher be using? And then finally, the most interesting one, I think, is this kindergarten result. Notice that blended teacher 1, in this case, the students start at a much higher rate in the fall than blended teacher 2, but notice what happens by spring. Blended teacher 2's results have surpassed that of blended teacher 1. This particular case was interesting because blended teacher 1 noted that she had not ever used videos within Blackboard, which blended teacher 2 was constantly doing. And when she actually discovered and started using that video component, things really began to change for that group of students. But it's very easy, by the way, to tease out the difference between two teachers. More difficult is to tease out those differences between 221.
This raw data is very enlightening. What is more powerful is hearing personally from our students, teachers, and parents. And Katie, at this time, could you please begin the video?
Yes, let me add that in here. One second. Okay, I'm going to go on mute so we can play the video. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to the Lawrence team.
Great, thanks, Katie.
So I see we have a question about what the scale that's being used to measure progress on the equal interval scale of measurement on MAP, or the measures of academic progress. That uses the Roche interval unit, and what it basically says is that an inch is an inch whether we use a tape measure, a yardstick, or a ruler. And so we would be able to say that a student who is on grade level is at a specific RIT score, or Roche interval unit score. And what we would expect to see is a significant move from fall to spring. And significance is actually interpreted as anything that is 3 or greater of movement. So, for instance, we would, when I go back to that grade 2 example, I see one classroom moving 10 RIT points, which would be of greater significance than moving less than 3. So that's what we mean by a significant movement.
Okay.
This is Philip Teese. I'm the teacher on special assignments with Lawrence Public Schools. And we're going to continue to take a look at the collect and interpret and some of the reports that we use. So the first report's there in Blackboard, the different reports that are provided within Blackboard, such as user activity inside the content areas, or performance activity towards our goals, additional summary reports. We have reports based on topics or discussion threads. So accessing all of those reports. Now, we look at that, our teachers individually access those reports, and again, that's part of that professional development. So we've had some aha moments with our teachers where we were putting content in to our specific courses, maybe assuming students were accessing certain areas of those, or we were wanting them to access. And then when we started as individual teachers going in and looking at those reports, these reports that are provided, we could begin to realize, well, they weren't accessing this, they were accessing that, and we could begin to ask those questions. What's happening? Why are they accessing certain parts? That began to guide our instruction. So was it because of the way we had our blended rooms set up? Was it the way our collaboration was occurring? Was it the specific content? One day we were working with, I was working with a teacher and went in and began looking at those reports, and I guess what this particular teacher was maybe a little disappointed on the access that we were seeing by particular students. Then we went into that class and they said, well, actually, maybe I don't have that content that's engaging for the students. So we talked, we collaborated, we worked with other teachers across the district, began developing some new content, and then used those reports to access that information. Now, as Terry mentioned, when we had our 8 teachers for our initial phase, now it was pretty easy to go visit those classrooms, pretty easy to access this data for those 8 teachers. We could even all get around a conference table on an afternoon and talk about it and collaborate. Now that we've expanded to 220 plus classrooms, it begins to become a little bit more challenging. So that's where these reports come in. These reports really help us guide that classroom instruction that's occurring in our blended classrooms. It helps us guide our collaboration days. It helps us guide our professional development days, both in building and within the district. Some additional analytics that we gather using a different program also runs all of our information on Blackboard. So this report here, just a glimpse at this report, it can tell us our active users by month or week or day. We can see increases, sharp decreases in that, again, collecting that information and begin to interpret that. Sometimes we know that we're going to have a drop in our active users. Other times, that instantly informs me that maybe we have a concern or a glitch occurring, and so these reports definitely help support that. We have the active hours, so we can see for all of our users the number of hours. And we can see from, this just gives us from November to November of last year to this year. Now, of course, that's going to increase from our 8 classrooms to 230. But why in October are we seeing this amount versus August versus September? Again, to help us guide that and drive our professional development. We can also look at active users during the days of the week. So we can see just from this that of all our active users, Monday is probably the most that we're in there. So we start to have conversations. This is, again, is pulling from Blackboard. So why are students accessing it more on Monday? What's available on Monday? Is that when we're kind of starting the week and by Friday we've kind of completed those activities and we're starting over? We also like to see, even on Saturday and Sunday or in the evenings, the students and teachers are accessing this content within Blackboard. So this graphic talks about the SAMR model, and a very brief synopsis of the SAMR model is it was developed by Dr. Putendara, and he created this model with the goal in transforming the learning experiences so they result in higher levels of achievement for our students. So the S, the A, the M, and the R also correlate with Bloom's, and with the remembering, the understanding and applying, the analyzing and evaluating for the different ones. So we like to show this graphic here. Teachers and parents can relate to it. So the S is kind of like our typical cup of coffee. We could make that cup of coffee at home. We can go to the local coffee shop and get it, but it's just our normal black coffee. There's just no functional change between the technology or the tools that we're using. So the A is like a latte. It's some functional improvement, and some examples would be, just to go back for substitution, would be like if we have a Word document using the word processor and we're typing it instead of handwriting it. That might be substitution. Or the A for augmentation is that maybe we're now using some functions within the word processor to maybe do spell check or count the words or using the thesaurus. So we're adding a bit to that functional improvement. The M stands for modification, and modification kind of allows for the redesign to happen. If we're thinking of the local coffee shop, it's like a caramel macchiato. So this technology has allowed us to collaboratively create maybe a story online, or we can use multimedia tools, some apps or some other programs that wouldn't be available without that technology. And redefinition allows for new tasks that were previously inconceivable. The example shows that like pumpkin spice latte, but that would be using, say, social media, or using, one example would be like Twitter and students using that, or using other programs in social studies to maybe research an area of the world and explore that area using Google Earth, kind of go to that location, actually interview people in that location, use other types of technology to actually be there that we couldn't do with just a previous textbook. So with this SAMR model, we began to collect and interpret our data in these categories. So this helps us guide our professional development when we are gathering this data. So we introduced this model to the teachers. We've talked about examples for each of the categories. And then we talk about, well, how does this look within Blackboard? Or how does this look within the technology that we're using in our blended classrooms? So on this next slide here, again, this is some additional analytics. But every component of Blackboard and every tool we're analyzing. So you can see the categories there on the left-hand side of the screen. So we have substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. Well, every component of Blackboard fits in to those categories of the SAMR model. And so we've had that discussion, the collaboration around that. What does that look like? So substitution at the bottom of the screen, well, we've broke that into two categories, such as collaboration, which includes multiple tools, information includes multiple tools. And remember, substitution is just literally just substituting into those categories. So before, if we had a calendar, well, we probably had the calendar in the class. It's just allowing for students to access it. We also have announcements. Well, we had announcements before, so we're just substituting that in. Now, what this data here allows us to do is we can begin seeing, is most of our time being spent in Blackboard by our teachers and or students in one category or the other. So are all we using Blackboard, or maybe all we're using the tools for, is substitution. And you can see there, of all the activity that's occurring, it's according to this specific week of information that we've collected, most of it is in the substitution category. Now, with our focus being more on augmentation and eventually redefinition, we'd hope those categories would increase. Now, we know we'll never get away from all substitution. You do always have to have that type of information, but most of our activities, we would want to eventually be into that modification and redefinition. On the right-hand side, the tool segment, that gives us specific details about each of those tools. So for tasks, for announcements, it tells us the percentage. We can also change these graphs to tell us the specific users. We can search by specific instructors and all the way down to specific students in classes to really gather that data that we're looking for, collect that data, interpret that data to begin, again, using those different forms of professional development, that proactive professional development, the on-demand, which Terry mentioned about us providing it through resources online or in person, and then the professional development when we're bringing in our staff and our teachers for our collaboration days.
So one of the things to note about this is, as we think about interpretation and then acting, is are some of these tools not being used as much because they're not familiar to the teacher yet? Is it something that the students haven't figured out yet? So it begins to give us information that we can ask ourselves, do we need to provide professional development about something that is not getting as much use, because we need to bring that to teachers' attention, help them use that more, and then we begin to see a spike in the usage of that.
The SAMR categories, the substitution, modification, those were created by Dr. Putendara. However, each of those items that go into those categories, there was that collaboration and discussion with our blended learning teachers, with the teachers on special assignments, to really analyze each of those specific tools and where they would fit into those categories. So that was kind of a powerful discussion where the teachers really began reflecting on, well, how does a journal fit in? Or if we only use one of the tools in this manner, would it be substitution? How can we use that specific tool and actually take it to modification and redefinition? What would we have to do? What would we have to provide with our students and that instruction? And then that guides the teachers on special assignment in providing that professional development around those specific activities. So our next slide here is our professional development, which I've mentioned earlier in this session. But our professional development opportunities are all modeled within Blackboard. So every session that we provide for our principals, for our district level administration, for our teachers, our support staff, again, are designed within Blackboard, designed with the SAMR model in mind. They're based on the data collection pieces that we're doing and the interpretation of those pieces. They're based on the need of our teachers, students, administrators, and that's how we begin to design that professional development. So this picture is just a little glimpse of what we're providing for some teachers on a specific day when we had them over to our district for our collaboration. So we're also providing professional development. Again, once a week we bring teachers into, our blended teachers in for collaboration, but we provide parent nights, we provide courses in the evening, we have during our parent-teacher conferences, it's all set up and modeled for them. We have additional professional development in our content area. For mathematics, for example, our math PD is again provided through Blackboard with the STAMR model in mind, so we're just constantly modeling it. All of our administrators, so our principals and district level administrators, for their monthly meetings, that is provided again through Blackboard. We talk about the analytics within Blackboard. We provide that same information that we're providing to our teachers, again, to help with those discussions, help with supporting those blended learning teachers, and supporting that overall blended learning environment.
One of the things that we've noticed that's been very helpful is getting our administrators to also participate in a blended format. So all of the administrative PD being presented in a blended format strengthens their understanding of blended learning.
So just to recap, our process, collect, interpret, act. We collect the data, that's all the analytics. We interpret all of that, and then we provide that professional learning support based on those effective practices.
So here we are at the end of our 45 minutes, and we did want to open it up for some Q&A. Some questions that have come our way. Why didn't we go one-to-one? We were very purposeful in not going one-to-one in our district. Obviously, financial resources have something to do with that, but when we place the devices in the classroom, what we're not trying to do is substitute a textbook for an electronic device. We are trying to create environments where students have to solve problems, and if there are only 10 or 12 devices, yet 27 kids in the classroom, how are we going to divide those up, and do we need technology to achieve the outcomes for this particular learning lesson? So we were very purposeful. Again, we are not one-to-one, and so far we're hearing from our 200 teachers in the blended environments that they are seeing success even if they don't have a single device in every student's hands. So questions from the audience. We're trying to address the ones we're seeing down the side. I hope we have, for those of you that have posted. If not, feel free to contact us at the information we're providing on this slide.
Yeah, let's take a minute to open it up for additional questions. So you can unmute using *6, or you can type in the chat or the QA. Another question just came in, and it's like we cheated up, but we did not, from Patty and Glen Rose. Do you have any examples of a second grade online class?
We do. We have our math course masters are all built out, kindergarten through 5th grade, and then we have a variety of middle and high school. But yes, we do have that, and if she would like to contact Philip at his contact information, he can give her a demo of that.
Yeah. And Patty, I'll also note that Paula Barr, a 2nd grade teacher from Lawrence, she actually presented on BITS last week. So if you go to our YouTube Blackboard TV 12 Bits playlist, I actually just posted that video of the session last week. So it's, you'll see a presentation from a 2nd grade blended teacher, different than an online class. So follow up with Philip on that, but you might want to check out the session from last Monday as well.
So there was another question listed. You created the 4 categories in Blackboard and then assigned the tools, assignments to them. That was with the assistance of our adoption success software, which is EasySoft. So it's an additional piece of software that aids us in the analytics.
And what other questions does the group have? I'll ask a question. Can you tell us a little bit more about the other tool that you're using with Blackboard and what kind of data you can look at with it?
So the other tool is that adoption success software tool, and that allowed us to build those specific the categories for the SAMR model, and then within that software we can have access to all the different components and tools within Blackboard. So that's how we're collecting all of that data. So all of the tools, everything that's being accessed by the teachers and the students. So that is the adoption software is from EasySoft. Now the other nice feature about that allows us to look at specific tools, and for that on-demand or that support. So we can have proactive support where we see multiple people are accessing certain tools. Well, we can provide like a pop-up feature. If we start seeing that for our instruction, classroom instruction, we would like a certain tool used, we can make available like a pop-up that says, have you tried this? Kind of just getting teachers familiar with that. The on-demand allows us to put videos with every piece of that. So if we're doing adaptive release within Blackboard, we could make a little video about adaptive release, how to set it up, the benefits of it, all the different aspects of adaptive release. Well, that's in the on-demand, so they can select that specific video. And then it also provides us all the additional analytics we need to guide our PD, both here and in our buildings.
You know, a question has come up about what incentives entice our teachers into making this leap. We didn't really provide any incentives other than a massive amount of support for those early adopters out there that knew that they could do something different in their classroom. They were just looking for a way to achieve that. So it's really coming together and selecting staff who have those characteristics we were looking for: grit, perseverance, a collaborative nature, and they're willing to make a mistake on stage. I will add that blended learning can occur without technology. However, technology makes the process and the environment much more efficient for the teacher. So we don't want people to confuse that you need technology to blend. You don't. The infusion of technology and the integration of digital content makes it much more efficient for the teacher.
Great, thank you. And I had started talking and I had realized I was still on mute. I wanted to thank you guys for a fabulous presentation. I don't mean this to end the Q&A, so as additional questions may flow in, we will continue to address those, so not into the QA, but wanted to thank Angelique, Terry, and Philip for a fabulous presentation. Really appreciate your time and expertise, and just a great session. Lots of great questions.
Thank you.
Throughout. Just a reminder, if you don't have the K-12 Live app, please get it. You'll get this session. Will be added to the app in a week or so. And just wanted to, Colleen, can you make me presenter? I'm advancing the slides and they're not moving forward here. Okay, thanks. So reminder to get the BB K-12 Live app. And then just as a wrap-up, you can reach me on Twitter at @1KatieGallagher or at katie.gallagher@blackboard.com. But we are very much actively recruiting presenters for the spring series. So please consider sharing your time and expertise with the larger community on this series. Reach out to me if you have an interest. You will be receiving a PDF of the slides and the recording in a few days by email. and an invitation to participate in an online PLC for ongoing dialogue. Again, please consider joining us on Monday for the Best of Both Worlds, a blended co-teaching model led by North Carolina Virtual. And just want to thank everyone for participating in today's session. Again, not a formal close to the Q&A, but wanted to wrap up if this was the end of the questions, and thank our expert presenters today. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you.